Welcome everybody to our first meeting of the year. Trying to take care of us on both fronts. It's real goofy. So I'm Brandon. You got an email from me. Tell your homies about it. Tell your roommates, whoever else, what we have going on with BMI. This is an opportunity for a safe space for us on campus as Black men, and we want to highlight everything that's positive, that you're doing well, and we want to connect you to great opportunities to build up some points of development professionally and personally. So a lot of the times that's going to happen through mentorship. This is annoying. Through mentorship, we have a variety of wonderful Black brothers on campus who are upperclassmen, who have been through some things, you know, who have made some mistakes, or who have heeded wise advice from our wise council members and kind of been on a straight and narrow path. But this is a situation where everybody can help everybody, and from a peer aspect, and also with the mentoring piece from my elder statesman, elder as in wisdom, not necessarily age, but with our wise council members, we have a couple in here right now. Um, Doctor, I ain't gonna say Reverend Doctor, Doctor Aaron Barnes, and then we have Brother Odell, and they are like literal student champions in the work that they do across campus. So Dr. Odell is working in the. I said Dr. Odell, Brother Odell is in maybe one day, speak it, working in the counseling center, and he is going to be a very vital piece for a lot of success for brothers on this campus. Just knowing that he's here, and we don't have to feel ashamed to go and talk to him and others like him in his profession when we dealing with things that we struggling to maybe overcome, small or big, right? And then we have we got the money man. We got the money man that knows how to get to the bag, not textbook, but real life as well. You can do both end. That's Dr. Aaron Barnes. He has had successful firms, a successful firm in New York, worked in NYC, um, uh, contributes to various peer review articles around his subject matter, where he's an expert in marketing and looking at the effect that culture has on marketing and vice versa. So when it comes to entrepreneurship, uh, this is somebody that you're going to want to holler at if that's a path that you're thinking about going into. When it comes to marketing, somebody you want to holler at. So a little bit about myself. I'm Brandon Bailey from Louisville, born and raised here, and went to school in Bowling Green and Western Kentucky University. And I kind of got into a situation similar to BMI because I was class clown, I was knucklehead, I was out here. This recorded, so I'm gonna just say I was out here, and I was in a lot of rooms, and I had a whole lot of fun, and I know a lot of people. So that one always a great thing. But I'm fortunate to have had really great mentors along my way in the of undergrad and grad school, and so I have my life experiences to kind of help relate to some things that you may be dealing with going through in this college experience. In addition to that, just began my PhD program in college student personnel this last week actually. So everything that I'm doing academically is to learn how to be a better vessel to serve you all as brothers on this campus, and students as a whole. So time is of the essence. I don't do a whole lot of lollygagging and lying and all of that. If I'm with you, I want to be real with you in this space, because when we real, we can grow, and that's kind of how I get down. So be sure to tap in with our emails and our communication on a regular basis. I'm gonna get out the way, and we're gonna hear from our brother Dr. Barnes. And hope y'all got some notes y'all want to take. Come on up to the front. You know what I mean? Because we got some other. He has some other things that he wants to help you take advantage of. later on today. So I'm gonna get out the way, Doctor. You take it away, and I will be active in the where I'm at. I will be active in the chat. So if you want to type some, I know you at work. Some of y'all traveling. Feel free to do that as well.
You do want me to stay right here too, so I can be in the camera?
Uh,
Yeah, I got you. I got you. Kind of noticed what you was doing, but I also don't want to be cut off. Okay. So I'm gonna do the thing where your professors are looking at you, but then looking at the camera. Hope that's cool. I have to do that with my classes. Uh, so he said, like, come to the front, and that's for like, that's really for later. So let me give you like an overview of what I want to do before I introduce myself, talk about myself, all of this. But I appreciate you coming now. But it was for later. So first, I just kind of wanted to introduce myself to this group. I think groups like these are extremely important. I was also a part of one in my undergraduate experience and my graduate school experience. And so I introduced myself by talking about my story, where I've come from, some of the things that I've learned, and maybe answer some of your questions that map onto what things you want to do, what things you got going on, and lend myself to being assistance in whatever way I can. That's one of the reasons why I'm here in general, to help pay forward. I guess think about that too. Like, why are you here? Like, is this a class assignment? I don't know. Like, is this? I don't know. I don't know why you might come to this. I have my reasons, but think about it for yourself. That's not a question you need to answer out loud. But like, just think about that. Why are you here? And how can we get out that objective? But okay, so I'm gonna do that the first like however long we need. Okay, and then afterwards, I'm working on something in the College of Business where we're trying to basically educate students and marketers to be better at marketing. And by better at marketing, I mean understanding that the world is changing, like that it looks more like this room than it has ever before, like the world that we market in. Meaning there's more people of color, more people from different backgrounds who are both customers and producers. And if we want to sell things to people, we need to understand those cultural competencies that they bring to the table and sell things that aren't offensive, put out messages that aren't abrasive, that can read the room, right? That's an important thing to be able to do. No matter what field you're in, everything is getting sold, but that's skipping steps. That's what we're going to do later, and that's when I'd like you to come up even closer than where you are now. But right now, you're fine where you're at. And I'm not doing a good job of staying in the thing. All right. So about me, I'm Aaron Barnes. I guess formerly you could call me Dr. Barnes or Professor Barnes. I did on my PhD, and people who tend to get those want to call themselves doctor. But in this group in particular, you can just call me Aaron or AB. That's what my friends call me, AB. I consider this group friends. Uh, I grew up in a city called Kokomo, Indiana. Anybody know where that's at? Word. And where? Oh, shit. So my dad is from Gary. He went to Cooley, Roosevelt, right? And he was around when the Jacksons was there. So like him and my uncle bullied Jackie Jackson. Like it's weird that like even then like you could be as talented as you want to be and somebody still find a reason to pick on you. But like that's what they was on. But anyway, I grew up in Kokomo, and my parents, my dad included, my mom and dad, they owned pharmacies when we used to live in Los Angeles. Okay. And I only mention that not to flex, but like that was a part of my upbringing. I noticed y'all looking at the screen instead of me, and that's just interesting. You could do that, but that's just interesting. Like maybe I don't know. It's more interesting to watch my hair. It's like imperfections on my face that you can see. Like you see the bags on there. I got small kids, so I don't sleep a lot. I got a 1-year-old and a 5-year-old. So there's that. But anyway, okay. Parents are entrepreneurs. They own pharmacies in LA. They had like 5 of them. Uh, my mom was the pharmacist. My dad was the business manager. And that had a deep impact on all of us being my siblings. I'm the youngest out of 4. And what that meant was we were rarely just given stuff. Like we had to earn everything monetarily. They instilled in us hustle from a very young age, right? And what I, in a very concrete sense, like my dad was, what's up, bro? My dad was the type where it's like, everybody here knows the Aquarius, right? I put him on the spot because I met him already. But what's up? Uh, well, nah. So like, my dad was like, "Yo, you want sneakers? You know what I mean? And maybe y'all have had this experience too. You want sneakers? You want clothes? Earn the money to get it." And he was like, "You like to eat candy, right?" You like going to penny savers and getting quarter bags of Fritos. Okay, here goes some vending machines. You and your brother about to start service these vending machines. And whatever money y'all earn on top of covering the costs, you can keep to buy whatever stuff you want, you and your brother. Video games, Dreamcast, all of that stuff. I'm that old, right? Dreamcast was the game we was trying to play. What's up? Go ahead too, I go call him out. uh, that was formative. That was formative for me. The reason why is because it gave me skills in terms of customer service, direct marketing. I was literally licking envelopes, sending them out to businesses across Kokomo, Indiana, trying to figure out if they wanted vending machines. And that's what exposed me to the first kind of muscle that I was starting to grow, being able to talk to people, sell things, to operate a business. Okay. And so that led to multiple, what's going on? That led to multiple different hustles. In business schools, we call it entrepreneurship and ventures, right? But multiple different hustles, cutting grass, right? Selling clothes on eBay. My parents let me sell stuff on eBay when I was 13, which was illegal, but they was like, it's legit in our house because at least you're not in the street. I was like, makes sense to me, right? I wasn't doing anything nefarious on there. I was just looking for different ways to find people to buy my stuff, which, if you're keeping score, is exactly what marketing is. That's what I went on to go to get my marketing degree in, or get my major in. It was in marketing. And that was in part because of experiences that I had, like selling in vending machines, selling on eBay, that made me realize that whatever it is that you're doing, you need to find an audience that's interested in it, right? You might be able to relate to thinking about if you're on social media and you're interested in your following, like you got to do things to find the people who like the content that you post, right? You might not think about it as marketing in the strict sense, but you're trying to find people who like the type of stuff that you put out there, either by following certain accounts, putting out certain content, etc. That's a type of marketing. That's why I ended up going to major in it at IU. So I went to Indiana University in Bloomington. That's where I met. That's where we helped found the Men of Color Leadership Institute. So when I said that I joined an institute just like this one, or a group just like this one, when I got to IU, my undergrad experience, that's what I meant. I helped found that organization because I grew up in Kokomo, Indiana. If you don't know this place, it's majority white. It's like Louisville, but worse, right? It's home to the largest Klan rally on record. So that's the kind of place that I grew up in. I mean, Louisville is not like that much better. Like as somebody who's lived in Kokomo, it's not that much better. There are more black people, which I'm really grateful for. But yeah, finding community was important for me. Finding black men who were about something that I could talk to, be real with, was important to me. That's why this is, and I just stated this explicitly yesterday when I was talking to Marco. This is the first extracurricular group that I've talked to, and the first and only extracurricular group that I've talked to since coming here in 2020. So I was skipping some steps, but like I got here in 2020 after being in undergrad, where of course I was still hustling on the side, I was finding ways to make money. In undergrad, my hustle was making flyers. I had a class on Photoshop and figured out that the Greeks always want flyers. Back in, okay, I'm gonna give you a clue on how old I am, but back in like 2011, 2010, folks didn't know Photoshop like folks know it now. And so they looked to me to make their flyers. I made that into a whole business where I was making flyers, making websites for folks when even after I went to New York, started working for real. I kept that hustle going, finding different audiences that needed my services. Again, marketing, right? Finding people who wanted what I wanted or wanted what I had to offer. Okay, so I said I skipped some steps because I was talking about getting here in 2020. So in between undergrad, I was at the Kelley School, majored in marketing because I already had experiences doing some kind of marketing, and I could find a major that fit those interests. Found a way to hustle, make some more money while I was in undergrad. I thought it really sucks to be in the Kelley School and not see a guy like me up in front telling me stuff about marketing. It really sucks. Like, I've spent enough of my time. What's going on, bro? I spent enough of my time listening to white folks in Kokomo, just to be frank. Spent enough of it. I thought that after having the experiences I had with Men of Color Leadership Institute, where I found students that were like me. It was already hard enough finding black students in Kokomo, but I found a bunch of black dudes like that I could, really bond with. I thought that I would find that same kind of experience in the classroom. I didn't. And I was like, I think this is what I want to do. I think I want to be that for future students. So that's when I started thinking about grad schools and undergrad. But my first time out, I didn't get in. I was aiming really high, which I should have, but I was unsophisticated in my approach. I wasn't looking for fit. And we can answer some questions about grad school strategies if you want. But I didn't get in at first. So that forced me to go and work. That forced me to go and work. And because I had put all my chips into a graduate school basket, I didn't have an opportunity right when I graduated. I had to make it. I had to create the opportunity. So the organization that Brandon was talking about that I worked for in New York, it was a nonprofit consulting agency that I reached out to. It was a warm lead. Like there was an advisor that knew the executive director that was like, I think they might have something for you. They didn't have anything in marketing. So I reached out to the executive director, like, yo, my name is Aaron. I see in your strategic plan. So that meant I had to look into their strategic plan on my own and was like, y'all say that y'all interested in using data to offer better services. But when I look at your staff, I don't see anybody who has the capacity to do this work. I just got a degree from the Kelley School. I think I could do this work. What you think? That was my pitch, basically, over email. And lucky for me, maybe the pitch was that good, or maybe it was divine intervention. But she was like, let's give it a shot. I'll give you an internship. Come out to New York. I was in Indiana at the time. I didn't have money to speak of, but I went out there and was like, I'm gonna try to make this work. Okay. Long story short, converted that internship into a full-time position that still exists based off of me reaching out. What's going on, bro? Based off of having the courage to reach out, I backed up my statement with like things that I did in classes and my extracurricular activities. So like, here's me conducting marketing research essentially that I can do for your firm if you give me the shot. I like that you sat like right in the front. That's dope. That's what I do. But okay. So now I'm in New York. Still know that I want to go back to graduate school. So I go to NYU to get a master's degree as a stepping stone to get the PhD. Because in order to be a professor, Dr. Khan, that I wanted to be, I needed a PhD. But I didn't get in my first time out. So I was like, let me try to get this master's degree. And it was mad expensive and hard to get in NYU. It was mad expensive and hard. What I had to do was reach out to a graduate student, a current graduate student who was like, hey, you look like you're doing some cool stuff. Can I volunteer in your research lab? Don't matter what it is that I'm doing. I'll be a Confederate. I'll be an actor in one of your studies. If that just means I can get in the building, because it's not like Louisville, NYU. It's not like you can just walk into buildings free. You got to have an ID card and get checked in. So I needed somebody to basically say, yeah, this person's with me. They'll come in. So I had to take that initiative. That worked. And after a summer of doing that, the next semester I applied in the fall, and fortunately got in, but didn't even finish that degree because by that point I had applied to PhD programs and they let me in. So I was like, I don't actually need this master's degree. It did what I wanted it to do. It put the line on my CV to say that I took the initiative to get into a master's program. I still had the research experience because remember I'm volunteering for this graduate student. And the Illinois University of Illinois was like, come on, we will take you without your master's degree. You've shown enough. So then I go to University of Illinois. That's where I completed the PhD in marketing. That's where I started Dapper Black Box. So that's a subscription company. That's maybe the culmination of all of my entrepreneurial endeavors, where I bring together the marketing that I did with selling candy and vending machines, and the graphic and web design that I did with making flyers, to create a online subscription for men, for Black men, that basically brought together Black-owned products like neckties, socks, bracelets, stuff like that, from Black-owned companies, and sent it to people around the country. I made that when I was in graduate school as a way to basically supplement income. I'm always a hustler. That never left me from when my parents instilled it. Uh, and then in 2020, we came here. Along the way, I mean, I married my now wife. We had 2 kids, and we came here in the pandemic. And I think that's all I want to say about that. So like based on what I've just said and the story I just laid out, like where in there do you see yourselves? And how do you see me as a resource to help you get where you want to be? Because that's why I'm here. Like I mentioned, folks who just came in, that's why I'm here at this meeting and why I'm at University of Louisville, why I'm in higher education in general, is to pay all of the good fortune that I received forward. Because I told the story in a very linear way that made it seem like I'm the main character, and I kind of am, but there were a lot of supporting cast members, a lot of people who helped me along the way, and I'm trying to be that for future generations, you guys in particular. So what in my story speaks to what you have going on? How can I help you? What can I do? What can I answer?
Just like you said, I brought an insight on trying to get into school and just like networking and just.
What's your name, bro?
Can't afford. My name is Desmond.
Desmond? Insight on getting into school? I mean, so from my story, the biggest insight is persistence. Because I didn't get in at first, right? Like I applied to PhD programs when I was a senior in undergrad, thinking that I had it in the bag actually, because I had been working with a professor thanks to a scholarship all 4 years. And I was black, like I still am. So I figured the school would throw me a bomb, because I'm not stupid. I know these schools want us in their buildings. So I was like, shoot, I got a tenured professor backing me, 4 years of experience in the research lab. I'm going after Duke. I'm going after Northwestern. That's where I was applying. I didn't get in though. That could have just stymied me and been like, all right, this ain't for me. I got a job in marketing in New York City. I could have been cool with that, but I had to remain persistent and think about it like it was my own business, meaning not wait for somebody else to tell me, you know what you should do? You should reach out to this graduate student to see if you can volunteer. Because the way that you could get into graduate school later is if you have this other experience on your CV. So being persistent in that way. Another thing that just popped to mind as I was saying was trying to find people who did the path that you did and reverse engineer their steps to figure out where you at in their process and where you need to be. So like what I did is I talked to a bunch of current graduate students and people who had gotten their PhD students, a bunch of them, to be like, all right, so what was you doing when you were a sophomore? What were you doing when you were a junior? And I tried to follow that map, right? So getting basically other people's playbooks, you know what I mean? And following it to the most that it makes sense for you, that feels real to you. Because if you don't, by the time you get there, it might feel hollow if you cheated yourself in order to follow somebody's playbook. But where it makes sense, follow their playbook. They said that, you know, I took this class, I got this experience, I paid for this fee, or I got this training. If that works for you, follow it. I mean, they made it, right? And so, and then once you try something and it doesn't work, keep trying. That's the main insight I had. Because I assume everybody in here is smart. I assume you're all smart, and the places that you want to occupy also have smart people. And the difference maker will be whether you stick to something once it doesn't work for you. That's been my story. Everybody in the College of Business is smart. Everybody who got a PhD at the University of Illinois is smart. But not everybody gets a tenure track job in the College of Business. Not everybody gets to publish research. Not everybody gets to teach students like the way I am. Like the difference maker can't just be persistence. It's a long-winded answer to your question. I hope that gave you something. Follow up with me. Like if I'm going off the rails, y'all haven't met my dad, but y'all getting a glimpse of what he's like by listening to me because I can ramble. Okay, but then stop me if I'm going too far off the rails. But what else? What else can I help with? What's up?
Indiana, always on this
Yeah, it was scary. I don't know, but now it's dope to have that experience. You know, there's a time when you gotta look at fear and be like, all right, so how much is fear gonna rule me? Like, there is, right? You can look at this pandemic. The fear of catching COVID has ruled me. I'll talk about me. It's ruled me because I got a 1-year-old and a 5-year-old, and my wife is asthmatic, so is my 5-year-old. So I'm like really worried about this, right? But to a certain degree, can't like keep you from doing things that matter to you. Like this meeting today, I could have been like, nah, you know what? I don't know y'all like that. Y'all could have been wherever. Y'all could get me sick and I could get sick and go home. This really matters. This is why this is the only like this is the only group outside of college of business marketing students that I interact with. This is the only one because this matters to me.
Thank you, bro.
No, no, thank y'all. Thank y'all. No, for real, because these type of spaces make difference in students' lives. Like, look at me. Like, because as soon as I got to IU's campus, it was Men of Color Leadership Institute that like helped me matriculate. That was the first one. And it was people in positions like the one I'm in now who were feeding into me then that helped me get here. Anyway, yeah, it can be scary to go to a big city. But the dope thing about big cities is they also have nice pockets. So I lived in Bed-Stuy. You heard about Bed-Stuy? I'm sure you have. If you listen to rap, you heard about Bed-Stuy. And nothing else just mentioned. What's up? Uh, the only reason why I mention that is because where we lived in Bed-Stuy felt like a little community. Felt like a tight knit place. Like the building that we lived in, the brownstone we lived in was owned by this black dude. He was Jamaican. He got it from his parents. And his brother lived in the basement. He lived in the top floor. We were on the first floor. So we already felt like a little family. You know what I mean? Like in his building. And then of course the neighborhood was more tight knit than say living in a place like Manhattan, where I considered living. But Brooklyn felt more consistent with what we like. Um, I don't even know if that's addressing what you're talking about, like moving to a big city, but like that's what it was like for me. Like it was scary. Like Kokomo is a place with 30,000 people. Okay? It's a small town, and most of the people that you see in Kokomo are white and don't like you if you're black. And so like going to New York was scary, but also dope because it's like New York's not like that in some ways. Like it could be the case that people look at you there and don't like you, but it doesn't feel like it does if you're in Kokomo. Okay. Uh, and for better or worse, if they don't like you, at least you're looking at somebody with a little melanin in their skin more often than not. So that was different and good for me. What up? Oh, that's me.
Some of y'all in here thinking about life after undergrad, or thinking about how to go in business for yourself, whether that's as an artist, barber, fashion designer, any questions. A great time.
Yeah, I got a question. How would you
I'm gonna come to
what like determine what would be a sole proprietorship or LLC?
So one, I mean, the difference between a sole proprietorship and LLC might be smaller than you think, right? Because there's sole proprietorship LLCs, right? LLC just kind of shields you from liability. Right? It's limited liability, so it shields you from having to take the rap if your company goes under, right? It basically says the company is responsible for all these losses, not me, not Aaron, right? So you could do that as a sole proprietor or as a limited liability. Um, Without knowing what exact business you're trying to get into, I would recommend LLCs. I've created LLCs for all of my businesses, my wife's businesses, because of this benefit, where just by filing as an LLC and going through those proper channels, you can shield yourself in case something happens. Right? Say a product that you develop backfires and hurts people. I'm smiling, but that's not a funny thing. Like, this happens. People make cars that default or that crash, right? Companies can shield themselves, or I should say the owners of companies shield themselves from taking on personal liability or people crashing by coming up with these LLCs or these type of corporations that take on the brunt of that liability. So I would recommend those versus sole proprietor. Now that does cost money. State of Kentucky, I think the cost, if you do it yourself, is like less than $100. Right? Recently made an LLC in the state of Kentucky, but I forgot the amount. But it was less than $100. It's like $60. I'll do that.
We got a question in the chat from Emmanuel.
Okay.
He's asking, what kind of connections do you think are most important for creating your own tech-related business?
Tech connections. Like if you don't already know tech, then you want software developers. You want CIOs. Like if you're local, you should be hanging out in Lulu. Right? That's one place where I know where there's a lot of tech companies already stationed, tech startups, and up and coming tech companies are there. And so the extent to which you can get in those rooms, shake hands, let them know what you do, what you bring to the table. The industry where you want to work in is the type of connections that you want to get. So if you're trying to be a barber, you want to know other barbers. If for nothing else, to know how you can position yourself amongst that market. If somebody's already got a hold on, spa treatments in the barbershop, maybe that's not the room for you. Maybe that's not the space for you, unless it's in a different geographic area. Oh man, right here. You had a question. I forget.
My question is like time management.
Yeah.
Currency, how do you not get your hustles caught up in your life, but still stay on top of them and try to improve, not
Practice. On top of that, I use apps. Right. I use Notes app. I use To Do apps. So I'll put this in front of the camera and see how well it works. Because I literally have. Yes. Nope. This is the camera. Can I see this? This is To Do. I finished most of my tasks today. I only got one left. But this is Todoist. I use that. I use Google Suite. Right. They got Keep, Docs, spreadsheets. I go spreadsheet crazy. That's one of the things that you learn in business schools. You gotta use spreadsheets, but you don't need to go to business schools to learn how to use the spreadsheets to organize your thinking. Writing helps a ton. So like all of what I just mentioned falls under the auspice of writing stuff down, getting out of my own head. Maybe you all are like this too, where you think through a lot of things, might not necessarily write it down, type it out, but you think through a lot of things, you go back and forth in your mind. That's cool, but that puts a lot of pressure on you to remember everything. And that's where you get caught up in like, oh shoot, I got a test, or oh man, my girl was hitting me up, or damn, my dad called me. But I'm trying to do this thing for my business. Like if you write it all out, you can kind of organize your days so that you can focus on the things that need to be focused on when they need to be focused on. So the tools I use to basically lay all that out on my phone. I carry that around with me everywhere. One thing I did in undergrad is as soon as I got syllabi, I would put the due dates for big assignments, tests, presentations, all in one sheet. I still have copies of that, which is crazy. But I would do that every semester so that I would know like, all right, this week in the semester is gonna be crazy because I got a midterm, a presentation, and a big assignment due. And after that, I'm cool. I don't have anything to do for another couple of weeks. So that's maybe when I could focus a lot of time on making these flyers for these organizations because they're throwing parties for Thanksgiving or whatever, you know what I mean? But that helped at the beginning of the semester to think about what I got coming the rest of the semester. So you can apply that same concept with your business or whatever else you got going on. Class is just easy because it recycled every couple months. You got another one?
Got another question from Emmanuel. Emmanuel's a senior, by the way. He's CIS major, I believe, computer information science. He's asking, who did you go to when you experienced a setback or failure, or what did you do to get through it?
Yeah, mostly I went to my parents, my brother. So I got an older brother and two older sisters. My brother's closest to me. So I went to them. I kept it in the family. That may not be a satisfying answer because here we are. We're trying to create one, right? We're trying to create a family, but it's hard to replace your actual family. But that's where I went. That's honest. I went to my brother when stuff happened, like when I didn't, or my girl at the time. So for the past 10 years, it's been my wife, but at other times it's been my girl. Right? Like, hey man, this didn't work out for you. Make it better. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. Some of that overflow might come to her, but primarily parents, my brother.
So y'all acting shy today. Some of y'all be acting up in the sack, but it's all good. So thinking back to undergrad,
Yep.
You had a lot going on. You were very focused. What were one or two of your bigger distractions at that time?
So like extracurricular activity, like student organizations, or you mean not?
Anything.
Biggest distractions? I mean, so look, I was a member of a fraternity. Is anybody a member of a fraternity here? No fraternity guys? Yeah, cool. What you in, bro? What's your name? What organization you in? Yeah. So I pledged at the Alpha chapter, and so distractions came in abundance. I lived in a house with my 3 LBs. We had parties so lit the block was on fire, and by that I mean literally cars spontaneously combusted out in front of our house. No clue how it happened. Like literally spontaneous. Like that's how we was getting there. Uh, so yeah, that was a big one. You know, I was there when the organization turned 100, so there was a lot of brothers that just wanted to come and see about us. You know what I mean? In positive and in negative lights. Folks just wanted to see, and that was a distraction. And I'm painting because of the question. I'm painting a negative kind of light about my involvement in the fraternity, but it was actually very dope. Like it, it was a nuke that got me. It was a member of Kappa Alpha Psi that got me a research internship in the summer of my junior year that I used to get my acceptance in the master's program. So like it also filled my cup in other areas, but whew, yeah, there was some days though. We was on some other stuff. Besides that, I won't place blame on anything else. I can pick on Kappas because everybody hates Kappas. they provided enough distraction. So, but, yeah.
Any other course up that?
That's it.
And we get crispy as usual.
Always,
Man. Any other questions?
You think it was worth it to go and start
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. Like that, the experience I had in that summer was the one that closest tied into my eventual career path. But I had a bunch of other professional opportunities that came through being a Kappa. Like when I first moved to New York, you was talking about going to New York. One of the first groups I reached out to was the alumni chapter. So the Brooklyn, Long Island alumni chapter where I lived in Bed-Stuy had some young cats in it at the time that were part of my first spring group. So that again immediately made it feel like a smaller community than big New York, right? So it was both, right? Like, right now, like there's a group of there's a group of noobs that are marketing professors, and like we got our own little thing where we kind of complain to each other or just chop it up, which is also nice. Like I haven't had to lean on them to get my job. Like my graduate program did that for me. But it's nice just to have that other layer of community. Right? It's a subset of a group like this where it could be members from all types of organizations. Um, yeah, you need not just limit yourself to your own organization, at least in terms of looking for friends and connections. I say that because if like you're thinking, man, I really do actually hate the Catholics, and I'm thinking about pledges, so I'm gonna be like a Q or something or Alpha. Still hit me up because like it's way bigger than the colors and letters, way bigger than that. Like Alphas have helped me out, Sigmas have helped me out, AKAs have helped me out. Yeah, big.
Other questions? Anybody else?
You had mentioned some of your failures.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you stay consistent in working for the goal?
Yeah. First, gave myself time to like grieve those setbacks, and it wasn't always like intentional. Like, okay, I'm gonna give myself a week to be tight about the fact that I didn't get into a graduate program, or about the fact that this thing failed. It just kind of happened, where like I would be in a funk for a little bit, and then I would say, all right, I've given that its time. Let's move on. And when I moved on, it would always start with something small, like something little that I could get a win with to kind of build momentum. So if you've heard of like a snowball method for tackling debt, I don't know if anybody's heard about Dave Ramsey. You know what I'm talking about? Like go after a little bit of debt so you can see yourself paying something off. Same kind of approach with like bouncing back from a setback. It's like, all right, let me get a little small victory so I can see myself win and then get after it again. So
I was wondering about your experience that you had applying into when you first applied to bachelor's school. Because I feel like my experience is not exactly the way to my people.
Yeah.
Doing a bunch of tutors, I want to go into chemistry. So I know how to teach chemistry, but I don't know how to feel.
So you know how to teach chemistry, but you don't think you'd have.
I ain't never done no research before. I ain't worked in energy or any type of pharmaceutical type stuff. So I was wondering how related was your 4-year research program to your master's?
So there was a high level of relationship, but that's beside the point. The issue, or an issue for you to consider, is this notion of transferable skills, right? And so, in particular to research, conducting research, I've learned conducting research is part of the equation. Dr. Perry will tell you this too. It's like you got to be able to conduct it and you got to be able to communicate it. And part of your experience that I've heard about you is that you communicated at least other people's research by teaching chemistry, right? So you've demonstrated some expertise in being able to do that, and that's part of the equation. There are some people who can only conduct research and they really struggle with communicating. So think about yourself as a part of a bigger team that you could add that aspect to it right out the gate, where you could communicate other people's research. You could absolutely learn how to conduct it if given the opportunity from X graduate school. But right away, you can add value to a program by saying, look, I know how to communicate this stuff, but I've been teaching it for X semesters, right? That's one thing to think about. That's communicate, and was one of my strengths when I was applying places. I hadn't conducted it myself. I hadn't conducted research myself. I was just a part of research, right? It wasn't my own project. I wasn't a PI. I wasn't even a leading grad student at the time that I applied. I was just helping people. But my skills were in doing stuff like this, talking to people about it. I could break down a concept that's super complex with a fancy label to words that regular people can understand. By regular, I just mean not academic. That was a skill. Hope that helps. And by the way, any question that you have that doesn't get talked about now, hit me up, please. Like I don't like when my students come to my office hours, but if you guys came, like I'd be really excited about it. Because my students come to my office hours and they got reason to actually to not, because I give them everything in the syllabus, but they don't read it. Maybe you can relate. But there's no syllabus for our interactions. So you guys can come through or just hit me up, email me, and I'm happy to interact with you. So that's in case like you got something and maybe you don't want to share it here, you want to talk to me one-on-one, totally fine. Yeah.
That's nothing else. You want to jump into your?
Yeah. Should I stop this?
Yeah.
All right, I'll let you go.
We're gonna log off for now. The Good Doctors got, which camera I'm on? The Good Doctors got another special treat that you had to be here to participate in. So hopefully September the 13th, we'll catch you in person at the next joint. Hit us up with whatever questions. Feel free to email me or the Good Doctor here, Aaron Barnes, and we catch up with y'all next time. Be safe on the road for those who's traveling.